in July.
It's an unimaginable evil with the power to kill by fear itself.
Like, literally scared to death?
All right, the Ghostbusters are back in New York in this one. So, all right, let's see it. All right, so Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So, the previous film, Afterlife, I really, really enjoyed. I thought it definitely brought the series back from, personally me, I still think the 2016 reboot is, piece of shit. I think it's lazy writing. It's not funny to me. And the series was kind of just, it was going off course for a while. And then they said, okay, you know what? Let's pull it back and let's go back and, try to get this thing back on track. And I think Afterlife did a really good job at that. Now, granted, does it repeat a lot from the first movie? Yes. But if you go back to Ghostbusters 2, it does pretty much the same thing. Where it's like, okay, it feels like another copy of one, but I still thoroughly enjoy 2. And Afterlife, it made sense for them to do that, but besides the point. But the end of Afterlife had me literally in tears. Like, my eyes were actually hurting because I was crying so much. Because, Ghostbusters, if it hasn't been apparent before, it's very important to me. But when they announced that they were going to do another movie, I was like, all right, I'm not saying no to that. And then it was announced like, okay, they're going back to New York, and it was like they're going back to the firehouse, and it was like, all right, let's see what you guys do. So then saw the movie, and I enjoyed it. Now, this is going to be an interesting one because the issues that I had, because I do have issues. The issues that I have, I really can't talk about without potentially spoiling stuff. So what I'm going to do is do this one like normal. So this is the non-spoiler one. But then I'm going to make a spoiler review. So, because, yeah, I really can't talk about the issues that I had without spoiling stuff. And, I don't want to just say it here without, any warning at all. But so you don't have to worry. I'm not going to spoil anything in this one. So you're okay if you haven't seen the movie. All right. So Frozen Empire, this takes place, I think they said it was 2 years after the events of Afterlife. They've officially moved into the firehouse, because if you don't remember, in Afterlife, it's revealed that Winston kept it alive when everyone else kind of just went their separate ways. He held on to it in the hopes that it was going to reemerge. Much like what happened with Ghostbusters 2, where it took place 5 years after the events of the first one, where they were, in the beginning of the movie, they were pretty much just all dispersed. They were doing their own thing, and then they all came back. Very much like what they do here. So it's like, all right, it's very much like what they did in 2. Okay, let's see what you guys do. So after chasing a ghost, I'm not gonna give details here, but they are then called forth by Walter Peck, who is now mayor, and basically saying you have, damage is at an all-time high. Phoebe, who, is still, technically becoming she's like it's like a tween now that's basically fighting child labor laws, and the fact that you guys aren't getting paid for any of this, it inflicts a lot of laws in there too. So Phoebe basically gets benched. So throughout the course of the movie, the OG are still around, but then all of a sudden, this guy who's played by Kumail Nanjiani, he shows up to Ray with this object, and then they find out that the object actually links to a spirit known as the Death Chill, or Garaka, which I don't know if they pulled that specifically from Mortal Kombat, like it's Baraka's late cousin or something like that, but that's besides the point. So throughout the course of the movie, New York becomes engulfed in just frozen. It becomes, basically, it becomes Alaska, pretty much. So then the Ghostbusters the new Ghostbusters and the OG Ghostbusters have to band together to defeat the entity and save New York. So, okay. The issues I had, I'm going to go into this without trying to spoil this. The pacing is a bit off. I'm going to say that. The pacing is a bit off. The first and second act feel, very much like stretch it out, to then it doesn't hit the third half or the third act, where it's like, all right, this is what it is. This is like, here it is. And in some ways, the third act by the time you get to the third act, it's like, okay, this is what we wanted to see. But, which is fine, but the issue is it takes until the third act to get there. And there's nothing wrong with that, except the first two acts, like I said, it feels very drawn out. I'll explain more of why I think that way in the spoiler one. Another issue I had was the character of Phoebe was just a complete 180 of like her character from Afterlife, the way she was set up, being like this just smart, ambitious kid who, finds out that she's part of something bigger. And that's super cool. And then in this, it's like once she gets benched, it feels like, you're just like, okay, you hit that age when you're a tween or a teen where you're just like very rebellious. And I'm like, okay, that would be fine. But the issue is that you've established this character as something completely different, as very much being like a little Egon in many ways. But, so it's like, it's a complete 180 of the character. And it's just like, wait, what are you doing? Like, okay. And again, I have more thoughts about that, but save that for later. And yeah, it's just, and also, especially with like New York City, because this takes place, it takes place 2 years after the events of Afterlife, but 40 years, or is it, 40 years after the events of the original movie. And it's like New York City just completely just forgets what happened. It's like, they're Men in Black's in New York too. It's like, if they established that Ghostbusters and Men in Black were set in the same universe, and that Men in Black, after every single situation, they just neuralize. They use the neuralizer on every single resident in New York City. So not only do they black out all the aliens, but they also black out all the ghosts. Because every time in one of the new new Ghostbusters film, it's like everybody forgets what happened. And it's like, what is going on? Like, you don't remember this, you don't remember this, you don't remember this. It's like, what is going on with the city? So I'm nitpicking a lot, but I did enjoy this. I know a lot of people are bashing the film, mainly critics, because it's just like, does the same thing. It's doing the same thing. It's like, yeah, but it's doing the same thing and it's working. And especially since these movies are specifically made for the fans. Like, yes, they're fan service, and me as a fan, I did enjoy it. Now, did I want something more with the fan service? Absolutely. Did I not like everything they were doing? Yes. Were some parts I was like, you could have like changed this, you could have done this better. Yes. But ultimately, I did have a good time watching it. I think it's a fun movie. It's also funny. It adds some more stuff to Ghostbusters lore that I thought was pretty cool. And also it does something like it pulls from all the other sources of Ghostbusters. So like, I believe this this villain is actually from the real Ghostbusters cartoon back in the 80s. I believe it is. So it's like, okay, that's pretty cool that they're establishing like, okay, the cartoons are their thing, but we're able to pull from all these different sources and try to make it work. And, you know, for the most part, this movie did work. Now, like I said, like throughout this, I was almost bashing the film, but I did enjoy this. I did not enjoy this as much as Afterlife. I would probably put this on the same level of Ghostbusters 2, where I do like it. Now I have flaws with it, but the flaws I can easily kind of like try to maneuver around. And especially with Ghostbusters 2, the first couple times I did see it, I was like, you know, okay, like, all right. It's all right, but you know, it could have been better. And then over the years that I've watched it, I've been able to look past the flaws and go like, oh, okay, like okay, this is fine. This, I would definitely watch this again, and I would think over the times that I would rewatch it, it would get better. Where I'm like, okay, I'm able to look past these parts and still have a good time watching it. So if you're a fan of Ghostbusters, I don't think you'd be disappointed in this, personally to me. But you know, it was a good sequel, and I did enjoy it, and I would definitely watch it in the future.
It's commanding an army of the undead.
I think we're all going to die.
Hold on your head!